Peace and blessings, everyone. This is Raisa Kiwala, the Muslimah divorce coach, and I support and guide divorced Muslim women to healing and opening the door to a new life of serenity, possibility, and abundance with reliance and certainty in Allah's promise. So today on our Ramadan reflections, reliance on Allah during divorce, we are on day 5 already. Yes. And what I wanted to talk about today was learning to cultivate your 2 greatest relationships, your 2 most important relationships, and those are with Allah and yourself. And why? Because once you can accept and trust yourself, you can rely on your GPS, the GPS that every human being has. It's our God protection service. It's our connection to Allah, right? And that is like our intuition, which guides us to the right path. We ask for guidance 17 times a day, right? Our connection to Allah is what validates us and gives us a sense of our self-esteem and our self-confidence. And we don't need to get that from outside of ourselves, from another person, or an achievement, or our status, or a material possession. We won't find it in those places. We're only going to find it, our sense of self and our worth and our value and our being validated is through our connection with Allah. And it's also an inherent trait and gift that is gifted to us by our Creator, and no one can take that away from us. So nothing can hurt you or help you from outside of yourself, because when you are connected to the source, and everyone that has that connection, when you're connected to that source, then nothing can hurt you from the outside and nothing can help you either, because your source is through your connection to Allah. And your connection to Him translates into your self-image and your perception, your sense of self-love and acceptance and kindness and compassion, really, and just the feeling of being enough, just because you are a magnificent creation of Allah, right? Full stop. Reason enough. So it's not about other people giving it to you, or affirmations of convincing you, because when you look to other people to validate you, there's going to be a sense of disappointment there. It's not going to be that place where it doesn't matter who you are on your worst day, on your best day. You'll still be validated when you're connected to the source. And that is how we are to navigate through our life, from that connection, right? Which is given to us by our Creator, to get back, to go on our journey of life and to get back to our original home from where we came from, right? And this way, you're not going to be at the mercy of someone else's approval or acceptance or validation, because you can learn to accept yourself through that relationship with Allah. And then at that point, you can accept other people as is, without wanting to change them, fix them, control them, manipulate them. And if you don't have it yourself, if you don't have self-acceptance and self-love and self-kindness and compassion, you can't give it or offer it to anyone else. And I want you to really pay attention and get conscious and aware. Build your awareness of your inner dialogue, your self-talk. What you tell yourself, you will believe and you will feel, and then that is how you will show up, and that is what you will attract in your life from others. And that is exactly where I was. Who I was as a very young person was a person who was dependent, codependent, needy, and just ripe for control. And that was what I attracted because of my insecurity. And, to thinking about that versus who I am today, living with fearless confidence and living with, as an independent free thinker, and that confidence and that self-esteem and that security that only comes from Allah is very different. And I attract very different people and opportunities and things in my life now than I did when I was that person, right? And think about, Allah tells us in the Quran in Surah Baqarah, verse 263, that kind words and forgiveness of faults are better than sadaqah, charity. What does that mean? Kindness, forgiveness. How can we be kind to other people if we can't be kind to ourselves? How can we forgive other people if we cannot forgive ourselves? How we are with other people, how we interact with other people, what we offer, what we give, what we bring to the table is just mirrors what is happening inside of us. So if you can't give it to yourself, there's no way we can give it to others. And how are we going to follow what Allah is telling us in the Quran? I used to run to other people for all of my needs. And yes, I was still worshiping and praying and to Allah, but it was kind of almost like shirk, because I was counting and relying on other people for reliance and dependence, when it should have only been on Allah, right? And so though my worship was just actions, of course I'll get rewarded for it, but it didn't have that same meaning, right, behind my actions of worship, until I realized that the most important relationship that I have is with Allah and with myself. And they go hand in hand. And only then can I have good relationships with my children, with my spouse, with my parents, with my relatives, with my community, and with people at large, right? Especially with the people that Allah expects us to have the best treatment with. And what is happening these days? What is happening? Take a look all around us, in our own homes, where we can offer the best treatment to our coworkers or our friends or our classmates, but how are we when we're at home? How are we with the most intimate relationships and the relationships where Allah asks us to be our best self and our best character? It totally is a game changer, and it starts with the self. I used to think that it's about everyone else. It starts with everyone else. They're like this is why I feel justified in my behavior. No, it starts with us. And that created a huge shift when I looked internally rather than blaming everyone else for their own behavior, right? Because we have no control over how other people behave and what they say and what they do and how they feel. The only thing we have control over is right here within us, here and here. That produced a profound shift in transformation and a rebirth, really, for me, a spiritual and emotional rebirth. And you think about it, all relationships have a spiritual component to it. Look, like even you think about in a marriage, it's Allah that's between you and your spouse, right? It's not like you're interacting with them and only them. It's that Allah is between you. Like whatever you're doing it to please Him in your character and your mannerisms and your behavior. So the ego can really drop and you can be your best self. And so what I would invite you to think about, to reflect on today, is go deep within yourself. Become conscious and more aware of your inner dialogue, your self-talk. Be more aware of your thoughts. Do you know that is what creates your reality? That is what creates how you experience life moment by moment, is through thought. What are you saying to yourself? Are you criticizing? Are you judging? Are you saying, are you questioning if you're good enough? Any limiting beliefs, that I can't achieve that because, I'm not smart enough, or I don't have the qualifications for it, right? Like, don't are you limiting your own self from an opportunity or an achievement just by telling yourself that, right? But who says? So I want you to think about what is your inner dialogue that's going on in your mind. Reflect on that. And what do you find? You know, have you thought about it? How do you think that, think about the way that you're speaking to yourself, and then ask yourself, does Allah want you to speak to His creation in that way? Do you think that Allah wants to see His creation speak to them, you know, in a negative way, right? And it's not about propping yourself up and being arrogant and saying I'm so great. No, we're human, is what we are. We make mistakes, and that's part of our design, and that's okay. And acceptance of that is just where we need to be, and that's good enough. It's good enough, being human. And ask yourself, what is your relationship with Allah? How do you think about Him, right? And what comes up when you're having these reflections? I want to hear about it. Post it in the group and share it with me. I've shared with you about, you know, my inner dialogue and how I believe that I was never good enough, no matter what. And it stayed with me for a very, very long time. You know, we develop and we take on board these beliefs about ourselves from childhood. Maybe someone said something to you, someone did something, and you started believing this was true about yourself, and it just adds on and adds on and adds on with layers. But it's not the truth. So I would love to hear about your reflections. What came up for you? Post it in the group, and let's dispel all of these myths and untruths. All right. Hope you guys have an awesome day, and I can't wait to see you on day 6. Take care. Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum.